injured in the same house a Copperas Cove woman was found dead in has been arrested himself in connection to the case. 37-year-old Kevin Frazier is charged with murder and aggravated assault. On April the 7th, police in Copperas Cove responded to a home on Hobby Road after someone from the residence called 911 and then hung up. When they got there, they found 33-year-old Destiney Carey dead from a gunshot wound. Frazier was also suffering from a gunshot wound but survived. After an investigation, police have now charged Frazier with Carey's death. He's in the Coryell County Jail tonight with a bond of $1.7 million.
Just wait. A man's voice calls out from inside the house. Officers exchange glances on the front porch of 1000 Hobby Road in Copperas Cove, Texas. It's April 7, 2022, just past noon. A disconnected 911 call brought them here. Standard procedure, nothing unusual. Until the screaming begins. A woman's desperate cries pierce through the door, followed immediately by the unmistakable crack of gunfire. 1 shot. 2 shots. 3. The officers burst through the entrance, weapons drawn. There, collapsed near the doorway, lies 33-year-old Destiney Carey, mother of 6, nurse, business owner, blood pooling beneath her motionless body. Just steps away stands her husband, Kevin Frazier, former Army Staff Sergeant, guns still in hand. In those critical seconds between wait and action, everything changed. The officers were right there, mere feet away, separated only by a wooden door when Destiney took her final breaths. Welcome to Dark Trace Crime Stories, your destination for gripping true crime stories that demand to be told. I'm your host, and today we're examining a case that exposes the fatal gaps in our protection systems. How does a woman die while police stand on her doorstep? What fatal miscalculation occurred in those moments between knocking and entering? And why couldn't a system designed to protect her prevent this tragedy? Some crimes are solved. Some remain unsolved. But all have stories that deserve to be told, and Destiney's story isn't just about domestic violence. It's about a catastrophic breakdown at every level meant to shield victims from harm. It's about a woman who did everything right. She reported threats, obtained protection orders, and called for help. Yet somehow, with help literally at her doorstep, the system still failed her. If you're new here, Dark Trace Crime Stories explores the most shocking cases and real-life criminal investigations, from cold cases to crimes that defy explanation. Hit subscribe now and join us as we examine what went terribly wrong that day in Texas, and why 6 children are growing up without their mother despite her desperate attempts to stay alive. Before she became a headline, before her name was attached to a tragedy, Destiney Jassmund Carey was building something remarkable in the heart of Texas. Born in 1989, Destiney grew up with a vision that extended far beyond what most would consider possible for a single mother. By age 33, she had constructed a life that many would spend decades trying to achieve, and she did it while raising 6 children on her own. "My mom was a hard-working woman," recalls her eldest daughter, Zyra Cannon. "Her laugh could light up any room. She was our foundation, the person we all depended on." That foundation wasn't built overnight. Destiney's journey began in healthcare, where she became a registered nurse. The profession suited her natural inclination to care for others, but nursing was just the beginning of her ambitions. While maintaining her nursing career and raising her children, Destiney launched her first clothing store in Killeen, Texas. The boutique quickly gained popularity among locals who appreciated her eye for fashion and quality. Her designs weren't just clothes. They were statements, expressions of confidence that resonated with women throughout the community. Success followed success. Soon, a second location opened, also in Killeen. The expansion wasn't just business growth. It represented financial independence for a woman determined to provide stability for her family without compromise. She worked day and night, Zyra remembers. Sometimes I'd wake up and find her sketching designs at 3 a.m., then she'd be up again at 6 to get us ready for school. I never understood where she found the energy. That energy seemed limitless. Between nursing shifts and managing inventory for 2 stores, Destiney never missed her children's important moments. School plays, sports games, parent-teacher conferences. Somehow, she was always there, present and engaged. Her home was filled with laughter and activity. Friends described walking into organized chaos, homework spread across tables, dinner cooking in the kitchen, music playing, and Destiney at the center of it all, directing the beautiful symphony of family life she had created. She always wanted to be happy, one friend later told reporters. And she wanted everyone around her to feel that same joy. That was just who she was. By early 2022, Destiney's entrepreneurial vision was expanding again. She had recently purchased a home, a significant milestone that represented security for her family. The mortgage payments were evidence of her financial discipline and forward thinking. But she wasn't stopping there. Plans were already underway for a 3rd boutique location in Dallas, a move that would transform her local success into a regional brand. Market research, location scouting, supplier negotiations, all while maintaining her existing businesses and family responsibilities. Her designs were becoming recognized beyond Killeen, worn by local models and featured in community fashion events. Women would come to her stores not just for clothes, but for the confidence that came with them. Destiney had an intuitive understanding of how to make people feel good about themselves, a gift she shared generously. She was building an empire, Zyra says, pride evident in her voice even through grief. And she was doing it for us. Everything she did was to make sure we had opportunities she never had. In professional settings, Destiney was known for her sharp business acumen and attention to detail. In personal settings, she was the friend who remembered birthdays, organized community events, and always had time to listen despite her packed schedule. The trajectory of her life seemed boundless. A nurse, an entrepreneur, a homeowner, a mother of 6, each role fulfilled with dedication and excellence. But behind the success and the smiles, behind the growing business and the beautiful family, a shadow was growing, one that would ultimately cut short the remarkable story of a woman who had overcome so many obstacles, only to be stopped by the one she couldn't escape.
On Facebook, he was all in it. Hey! Don't worry about it. How old you are?
She thinks she's grown. She been forgetting.
Here you go.
Let's hit you about my chair one more time. You did.
Y'all see how crazy my man is?
Hey, first thing first, dog. Real talk. 4 years strong.
Oh, no. Shut the hell up. I don't want to hear that. Not today.
It's our anniversary.
Not today.
Really?
Yeah, it's our anniversary today.
You gonna come up like I don't mean that. You did. Get the fuck out of here.
While Destiney built her businesses and cared for her children, another presence loomed in her life, one that would ultimately prove fatal. Kevin Frazier, a former Army Staff Sergeant, had once represented stability and security in Destiney's world. His military background suggested discipline, honor, and protection, qualities that, on the surface, complemented Destiney's entrepreneurial drive. To outsiders, they appeared to be a power couple. He, the decorated military man with a steady income and respectable position. She, the ambitious businesswoman and devoted mother. Together, they presented an image of a modern family thriving against the odds. People saw what they wanted to see, explains a close friend of Destiney who requested anonymity. At community events or when dropping the kids off at school, they looked like any other couple. Kevin would even help at her store sometimes, moving inventory or fixing things. It all seemed so normal. But behind the closed doors of their home, a different reality was unfolding, one marked by increasing control, isolation, and fear. The transformation didn't happen overnight. According to those closest to Destiney, the change in Kevin was gradual, almost imperceptible at first. The military precision and attention to detail that had once made him an exemplary soldier began manifesting in concerning ways at home. It started with questions, recalls Zaira. Where are you going? Who will be there? What time exactly will you be back? Then it became demands. Then rules. Then consequences for breaking those rules. The discipline that had served Kevin well in the military morphed into something darker, a need to control every aspect of Destiney's increasingly successful life. As her boutiques gained popularity and her customer base grew, Kevin's jealousy intensified. Male customers became subjects of interrogation. Business meetings were interrupted by incessant calls and texts. Networking events were followed by accusations and arguments that would last through the night. He couldn't handle her success, says another family member. Every step forward she took seemed to threaten him somehow. It was like he needed her to be smaller to feel big himself. Friends began noticing subtle changes in Destiney's behavior around 2021. The woman who had once been the life of every gathering became quieter, more reserved. She checked her phone constantly, always aware of the time. She made excuses to leave early from social events. She stopped inviting people to her home. I asked her once if everything was okay, remembers a longtime friend. She just smiled and said, "You know how it is, busy with the kids, busy with the stores." But her eyes told a different story. There was fear there. What many didn't realize was that Destiney was engaged in a complex balancing act, trying to manage Kevin's increasingly volatile behavior while shielding her children from the reality of their home life. She would wait until they were asleep to have arguments. She would play music to mask raised voices. She created elaborate explanations for Kevin's absences or sudden mood changes. Mom was always putting herself between us and the problems, Zaira explains. She'd send us to our rooms or to a friend's house when she sensed things were about to get bad. She absorbed so much to protect us. By late 2021, the warning signs had become impossible to ignore. Destiney began confiding in a select few about what was happening. Text messages to close friends revealed a woman increasingly concerned for her safety. If something happens to me, one message read, "You know who did it." Neighbors reported hearing arguments more frequently. One recalled seeing Destiney sleeping in her car one night, only to return to the house early the next morning before the children woke up. Another mentioned seeing bruises that Destiney explained away as bumping into things at the store. As her professional life flourished, her personal life deteriorated. The contrast between her public success and private suffering grew starker. Destiney began taking precautions, changing passwords, opening a separate bank account, documenting incidents, and eventually, seeking legal protection. She was trying to find a way out that wouldn't put her kids at risk, explains a domestic violence advocate who later reviewed the case. That's the most dangerous time for any victim when they're planning to leave. What Destiney couldn't have known was how quickly the situation would escalate, and how the very systems designed to protect her would ultimately fail at the moment she needed them most. The year leading up to April 7, 2022, marked a critical period in Destiney's life, one filled with increasingly desperate attempts to protect herself and her children through official channels. What follows is a documented timeline of a system slowly grinding toward failure. In early 2021, police records show the first official call to Destiney's residence. The report, filed as a domestic disturbance, contains the ominous note, "Female caller requested officers but disconnected before providing details." When officers arrived, both Destiney and Kevin assured them everything was fine, a common response driven by fear of retaliation once authorities leave. 3 months later, another call. This time, Destiney spoke to officers privately, reporting threats Kevin had made against her. No arrests were made, but officers provided information about domestic violence resources. The report indicates Destiney expressed concern about her children's safety but declined emergency shelter. Many victims don't leave immediately, explains a domestic violence expert. They make an average of 7 attempts before successfully escaping an abusive situation. Each attempt is a test, gauging how serious the abuser's threats are and whether help will actually come when needed. By summer 2021, Destiney took a significant step, filing for an emergency protection order. Court documents reveal Kevin had threatened her with a weapon during an argument about her businesses. The temporary order was granted, requiring Kevin to maintain distance from Destiney, her home, and her stores. But protection orders are only as effective as their enforcement. Within weeks, Destiney reported violations, Kevin driving by her stores, sending threatening messages through mutual friends, and once, appearing at her children's school. Each violation was documented, but resulted in minimal consequences. Paper doesn't stop bullets, Zaira would later tell reporters. Mom kept all these documents in a folder, thinking they would protect her. But they were just papers. By fall 2021, the situation had reached a dangerous impasse. Kevin had violated the protection order multiple times, resulting in a brief detention but no substantial charges. Destiney had installed security cameras at her home and businesses. She had changed her routines, varied her driving routes, and instructed her older children on emergency procedures. In December 2021, another police report, Kevin had allegedly forced his way into Destiney's home while she was at work, leaving behind a note that read simply, "I'm always watching." Officers documented the break-in but couldn't locate Kevin for questioning. The new year brought no relief. January 2022 saw 2 more calls to police, one reporting Kevin outside Destiney's home, another after he allegedly followed her from her store to a restaurant. Each incident added to the paper trail but produced no meaningful intervention. In March 2022, just weeks before her death, Destiney applied for a renewal of her protection order, adding new evidence of threats against not just her, but her children. The hearing was scheduled for April 15th, a date Destiney would never live to see. Then came April 6, 2022, the day before the murder. Police were called to Destiney's residence in Copper's Cove in response to what the report describes as an active domestic violence situation. Officers arrived to find signs of a physical altercation, but Kevin had already left the scene. Destiney reported he had threatened to end it all for both of them. Officers took statements, photographed evidence, and once again, provided Destiney with resource information. They attempted to locate Kevin but were unsuccessful. A report was filed, becoming the final document in what would prove to be a futile paper trail. Less than 24 hours later, Destiney Carey would be dead. Are you seeing the pattern here? The escalation that went unchecked? The warning signs that flashed red again and again? This isn't just Destiney's story, it's playing out right now in homes across the country. Comment below if you think the system failed Destiney, and let us know what state you're watching from. Have you witnessed similar situations where protection orders and police reports weren't enough? Your experiences might help others recognize these warning signs before it's too late. Now, let's examine the events of April 7th, the day everything came to its tragic conclusion. April 7th, 2022, began like any other Thursday in Copper's Cove, Texas. The morning temperature hovered around 68 degrees with clear skies, a perfect spring day that gave no indication of the horror that would unfold before noon. For Destiney, the morning followed her typical routine. Security footage from her boutique shows her arriving at 8:17 a.m., opening the store, and helping several customers over the next few hours. Phone records indicate she made several business calls and texted her children about after-school plans. Nothing in her digital footprint suggested immediate danger. At 11:42 a.m., everything changed. According to 911 dispatch records, a call came in from Destiney's home address at 11:42 and 18 seconds a.m. The caller, later confirmed to be Destiney, dialed the emergency number but hung up before speaking to the operator. Following standard protocol for disconnected emergency calls, the dispatcher attempted a callback, which went unanswered. A hung-up 911 call is always treated as a potential emergency, explains a former emergency dispatcher. Even if the caller doesn't speak, the fact that someone dialed those 3 numbers indicates they felt they needed help. At 11:45 a.m., the dispatcher sent officers to the address to perform a welfare check. 2 patrol units were dispatched, arriving at the 1000 block of Hobby Road at approximately 12:28 p.m., 43 minutes after the initial call. Body camera footage from the responding officers shows them approaching the single-story home. No signs of disturbance were visible from outside. No broken windows. No forced entry points. No sounds of conflict. The officers knocked on the front door at 12:29 p.m. What happened next would become the focus of intense scrutiny and investigation. After knocking, the officers heard a male voice from inside call out, "Wait." The voice, later confirmed to be Kevin Frazier's, didn't sound distressed or threatening. It sounded like a normal request for time to answer the door. The officers waited. Police protocol in domestic disturbance cases is complex. Without clear evidence of immediate danger, officers must balance respect for privacy with their duty to ensure safety. In this moment, standing on Destiney's porch, the officers made a judgment call to wait, a decision that would be questioned for years to come. Exactly 27 seconds after the male voice said, "Wait," the situation escalated dramatically. Body camera audio captured a woman's voice, Destiney's, screaming from inside the house. The scream was immediately followed by the distinct sound of gunfire. 1 shot. 2 shots. 3 shots in rapid succession. The officers immediately drew their weapons and forced entry into the home, breaking through the front door at 12:30 and 12 seconds p.m., less than a minute after their initial knock. Inside, they encountered a scene of horror. Destiney lay on the floor near the front door, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to her chest and abdomen. Kevin Frazier stood in the living room, guns still in hand, turning toward the officers as they entered. According to the official report, Frazier raised his weapon toward the officers, prompting them to fire. He was struck multiple times but survived his injuries. One officer sustained minor injuries during the confrontation. Forensic analysis later reconstructed the sequence of events inside the home. Based on blood spatter patterns, bullet trajectory, and physical evidence, investigators determined that Destiney had been moving toward the front door when she was shot. She was likely attempting to reach the officers when Frazier opened fire. The medical examiner's report revealed that Destiney was struck by 3 9mm bullets. The first entered her upper right chest, the second her lower abdomen, and the third her left shoulder. The chest wound was determined to be fatal, causing catastrophic damage to her heart and lungs. Even with immediate medical intervention, her chances of survival would have been minimal. Officers attempted life-saving measures while waiting for emergency medical services to arrive. Body camera footage shows them performing CPR and applying pressure to her wounds, but the injuries were too severe. At 12:47 p.m., Destiney Jassmund Carey was pronounced dead at the scene by the Justice of the Peace. Those 27 seconds, from wait to gunshots, have become the focus of intense analysis. Could the officers have prevented Destiney's death by forcing entry immediately? Was there any way to know that danger was imminent? Would a different protocol have saved her life? In domestic violence situations, seconds matter, explains a law enforcement trainer. But officers are also trained to avoid escalating situations unnecessarily. Without clear signs of immediate danger, standard procedure is to establish contact verbally first. What makes this case particularly haunting is the proximity of help to harm. The officers were literally feet away, separated from Destiney by nothing more than a wooden door, when the fatal shots were fired. They were close enough to hear her final screams, close enough that she almost reached them, but not close enough to save her. The 911 call that brought them there, Destiney's final attempt to get help, ended in silence. But that silence spoke volumes about a system that arrived too late, waited too long, and ultimately failed to protect a woman who had done everything right to save herself. As emergency vehicles crowded Hobby Road that April afternoon, the reality of what had occurred began to settle over the community. Destiney Carey, nurse, entrepreneur, mother of 6, was gone. Her life ended just steps away from potential safety. While Destiney was pronounced dead at the scene by the Justice of the Peace at 12:47 p.m., Kevin Frazier was transported to a nearby hospital in stable condition. Despite sustaining multiple gunshot wounds during the confrontation with police, his injuries were not life-threatening, a bitter irony that wasn't lost on those who loved Destiney. "He gets to live while my mother is gone," Zyra would later tell reporters, her voice steady despite her grief. Where is the justice in that? Within 48 hours of the shooting, while still recovering in the hospital under police guard, Frazier was formally charged with first-degree murder. Additional charges of aggravated assault against a public servant were added due to his actions toward the responding officers, one of whom sustained injuries during the confrontation. The legal process moved forward with the methodical pace typical of the justice system. Frazier was appointed legal counsel, bail was set at $1.5 million, and preliminary hearings were scheduled. Due to his military background and the nature of the crime, the case attracted attention from veterans advocacy groups and domestic violence organizations alike. As the legal machinery ground forward, the community's focus shifted to the 6 children left behind, ranging in age from elementary school to late teens. Within days of the murder, local businesses in Killeen and Copperas Cove organized fundraisers to support them. Destiney's boutiques became impromptu memorial sites, with customers leaving flowers, cards, and messages of support. "She touched so many lives," said one customer who organized a benefit fashion show featuring Destiney's designs. "Her clothes made women feel beautiful and confident. We want to make sure her children know how many people their mother inspired." The school district mobilized counseling resources for Destiney's children and their classmates. Teachers reported creating memory books and art projects to help younger students process their grief. Community members stepped forward offering housing, transportation, and other practical support. Perhaps most poignantly, a group of local entrepreneurs, many of them women who had been mentored by Destiney, came together to develop a plan for keeping her businesses operational. "Her legacy won't end here," one explained. "Her vision deserves to continue." In the midst of this outpouring of support, Zyra emerged as the family's voice and her mother's most powerful advocate. At just 19, she stepped into a role no one should have to fill, becoming both spokesperson and guardian for her younger siblings. "My mother built something beautiful from nothing," Zyra told the crowd at a candlelight vigil held 1 week after the murder. "She showed us what strength looks like. Now it's my turn to be strong for my brothers and sisters, and to make sure no one forgets what happened to her." Zyra's advocacy extended beyond preserving her mother's memory. She began speaking at domestic violence awareness events, meeting with police officials about response protocols, and pushing for stronger enforcement of protection orders. "The system failed my mother at every turn," she said during one community forum. "Her death certificate says homicide, but I call it negligence. Every report she filed, every order she obtained, every call she made, they all led to nothing. Until we fix this broken system, other children will lose their mothers too." As the criminal case against Kevin Frazier proceeded toward trial, Zyra's promise to seek justice evolved into something larger, a commitment to systemic change that would honor her mother's memory by protecting others facing similar dangers. "My mother's story doesn't end with her death," Zyra vowed. "It begins with it." Destiney Carey's story represents a tragic failure of systems designed to protect those in danger, but it also offers vital lessons that could save lives. Remember, the most dangerous time for victims is when they attempt to leave. Professional guidance can make the difference between life and death. You can help strengthen protection systems by supporting organizations that provide legal advocacy for domestic violence victims, contacting your representatives about strengthening enforcement of protection orders, volunteering with victim support services in your community, sharing information about warning signs and resources. Destiney's death wasn't inevitable. It resulted from specific failures that we, as a society, have the power to address. Before you go, if this story impacted you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Dark Trace Crime Stories, and hit the notification bell. Your engagement helps these important stories reach more people who need to hear them. Share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding these warning signs. Every share could potentially save a life. And please, join the conversation in the comments below. What do you think could have saved Destiney's life? Your insights might help others recognize dangerous situations before it's too late. This episode is dedicated to the memory of Destiney Jassmund Carey, 1989 to 2022, and to her 6 children, who continue her legacy of strength, resilience, and love. May her story help create a world where other mothers don't have to fear for their lives, and where other children don't lose parents to preventable violence. Thank you for watching Dark Trace Crime Stories. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.